We're going to build the best football team in the SEC Conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC Conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gator.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Tyreek Cleveland! How about it? I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Pops and fires the ball over the middle. It's Dory! It's Dory! Got a touchdown! Dory's got a touchdown! Oh, man! Dory's got a touchdown!
Ahmad Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gator.
You always had a fourth member, man. Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium Miguel. It's your favorite Uncle Silk.
It's Dan.
And Delatory.
Same corner, same time. Y'all boys in good vibrations? How y'all feeling?
I know Nick's ready to be a bragger.
Took off my Kevlar vest after dealing with message boards for a week. Been a hectic week. Not a great weekend, and a lot of unpositive vibrations going around Gator Nation right now. Corey,
We've been here before a little bit.
This is up there though, right?
It's up there,
in terms of meltdown weeks, we're up there. We're near the top.
A bad week, but we went into the fall of like striking out of quarterbacks. Didn't get a quarterback. We had a 2-star that everybody was crying about with Kyle Trask. We'll get into that later. How was everybody's weekend?
Well, it was a very good weekend. I played some golf on Saturday and Sunday, and then unfortunately, our Tampa Bay Lightning lost in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup yesterday. So the Colorado Avalanche have rightfully won the Stanley Cup, dethroning the Lightning after back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. Hell of a run, boys. So been a really cool 3 years. Seeing your team win the ultimate prize in sports is pretty cool. And to see them do it back-to-back years is really a cool thing. And then to see them make it to the finals again in the third year it's one of those things that you have to relish and know that you may never see your team there again, right? So you try to enjoy it. But congrats to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a lot of fun memories over the last 3 years.
Must have been devastating for you to watch last night, Silk.
Yeah, man, it was wild, man. The refs was holding the whistle.
Yeah, that's
a great call, Silk.
It's a pinstripe cup. Those Avalanche are bringing back to Colorado, huh? It's a pinstripe cup.
Yeah, no, there was definitely some shaky calls. I had to put out a tweet yesterday because there's a lot of tripping calls that went.
Nick thought he caught me slipping. There.
He did. I said, "Am I on shrooms or is this game a little trippy?"
Yeah.
It was a.
I love how Dan said that too. He's like, it was so bad that I had to put a tweet out.
Yeah, I had to let the internet know.
Dan Thompson Incorporated had to make a statement.
That's
during
right.
Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Hey, we're in statement time, Nick. We have John Ruiz making statements, Gator Collective making statements, Jaden Rashada making statements. It's only
Dan drives the Zamboni and shit, so he's like damn near CEO.
Zamboni Dan.
Hey, we're gonna get back on. We're gonna get back on there next season. So you guys get your parkas ready, your snow caps on, and we're going to be riding around on that Zamboni with our name plastered on the Jumbotron.
With it.
Got it. So just whipping it around, doing donuts on the Zamboni.
Baby. Yeah, like it's a hell.
They're like, hey, man, you got to get all 200 feet. He's like, no, we're going to be real good right here.
I just got to go viral real quick.
That's right. Yeah. How was your weekend, brother?
Outside of recruiting, man, pretty good. Real life was fine, man. A lot of relaxation. Got to hang out with family, kids, get some work done. Same old, man. No complaints. It's summer, so it's hot. But other than that, man, just been vibing.
Well, we got a big episode today. We are bringing on Florida Gators athletic director Scott Strickland today. So very excited to talk to him. We talked to him last Thursday, actually, but we'll pretend like we're doing that today. Really great conversation. I enjoyed it. I think that he does a great job of explaining kind of the future of the SEC, where he thinks the NCAA is going. Certainly, he talks about his time at the University of Florida. We put the interview out on YouTube, so if you checked it out, we appreciate it, but also a really in-depth, good conversation. Sat down with us for 45 minutes, so we appreciate that. And then we have Morgan Frazier coming on, a former UF gymnast and current attorney that focuses on NIL. So obviously, with everything going on in the world today, and especially this past weekend, it'll be good to chat about the current state of NIL. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our friend Alan Horn with State Farm Insurance. If you're in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, or Tennessee, give him a call at 706-692-2888 or visit him at allenhorninsurance.com for your auto, home, renters, life, business insurance, and retirement plan. Again, allenhorninsurance.com, 706-692-2888. Before we get into the Scott Strickland interview and before we get into the Morgan Frazier interview, Nick, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, we had talked about Pittsburgh, California, 4-star cornerback Jaden Rashada was going to announce his commitment this past weekend on Sunday. He did announce live on TV that he was going to be committing to the University of Miami. Nick, we'll let you wear your cap. That was on the table.
Listen, I'm not here to beat my chest and kick Gator fans while they're down. When I said that Florida's going to be a hat on the table, like Florida actually got back in it. Florida was in it for him. So while what I said, what that might be like 6 weeks ago now, like that, it seems like a long time ago.
Right.
While I said it was, well, what I said turned out to be right. It wasn't how, it had played out when I did say it. So Florida was in it. Don't believe, the crazy numbers that you're seeing out there. There's a lot of incentive for somebody who represents an athlete to throw a gigantic number out there, helps in future negotiations. I wouldn't say that there wasn't NIL deals spoken about, but the numbers that you saw on Sunday night were certainly inflated. And Florida's still in a bad spot. Just still in a bad spot. I think Zach Albaverdi did a really good deep dive on like bump classes and what Urbans looked like, what Muschamps looked like, McElwain, Mullen. So like it's not time to go crazy. Your eyebrows should be raised because this staff was brought in because the last staff couldn't recruit. So you're looking for someone who can recruit and can build. And 6 months in, the returns are not good. A lot of time left. It's hard. It's hard.
No, what recruiting has changed.
Yes.
And some people aren't progressive. I think right now we're just not progressive with how we want to approach this. I know we got like more of a wait and see type thing with this, and we're limited by somewhat the law of state of Florida. But we just don't have anything progressive to keep up. Like these guys are offering scholarships and you hearing some of the numbers that are coming out, whether they're like even if they're halfway true, that's a lot of money to be on the trail with a scholarship. This is coming down to business, man. Most of this recruiting. You got guys like Cedric Baxter that grew up thinking it's going to be a big three, maybe Bama and Georgia type thing, and Texas is leading the way now in that. After getting Arch Manning, you can see the flows of predictions start to flow for him. And we all know what he's about. It's about business, and I get it, and I understand it. I don't fault any of these kids, but I'm slow to criticize the staff and their efforts because all the resources Billy got are great for what recruiting used to be. They're set up to have to be able to get to these kids as far as information, staying on top of them, the technology, the content that they're putting out, they're staying in touch on social media, all that is on point. But these kids are making decisions on business. And I think Tony Mitchell, dad, came out and said the same thing on social media. There was a clip going around with him explaining the same thing. Florida's not talking NIL business like these other schools. And I think that's what we need to tighten up at. I think everybody needs to relax with coming at these coaches. NIL is different. And I do think we're in a tough spot, but we just got to figure out what like how it's gonna go down, like the infrastructure, and I think that's where we at with it. That's my overall take of what recruiting has been this offseason. I got to slow down with my expectations because I don't know what we're gonna do in the NIL market. Selling the logo is one thing, but you're not selling the logo of past, man. It's too much business on the table now.
Is the money there?
It should be. It's a lot of money around here. It's University of Florida.
I don't think that Florida's ever had problems with money, and I don't think that they do now. I think this is my thought on NIL. I think that we're in a very short window of time where very large numbers are getting thrown around, and no matter how true they are or not, right? Whether they're 50% true or 100% true, I think right now players are going to get the very high end of an NIL deal compared to what I think a few years from now. I think that we're about to open a Pandora's box of large money deals and battling with what happens if a deal goes wrong. And when I mean a deal goes wrong, if, I, Mr. Businessman, give this 5-star recruit, X number of dollars, large X number of dollars, and that large X number of dollar player is sitting on the bench or is still sitting behind somebody and is not going to get an opportunity for 2 or 3 years, or is splitting with somebody that was far less expensive, right? And what happens when the player that I gave a large sum of money for isn't on the field and bringing notoriety to my business and my brand that I'm paying for them to build, right? So I think that we are going to see a crux here very, very soon where these dollar deals probably start to drop quite a bit, because I think that we're still trying to figure out where in this prism does the dollar figure equate to the amount of money that I'm spending in value. And I still think that right now we're just throwing around a lot of money trying to figure out what that is. But I do think that these numbers are going to start dropping pretty soon. So I don't blame these agents for throwing around large sums of money as advertising and marketing for what they're able to do, because I don't think that we're going to do it for very long. I do think that the market's going to straighten out a little bit, because right now
nothing's been paid yet, though. Like, I don't know why everybody's like talking about what's been paid and the money's been thrown around. None of that has been paid yet. It's just
right.
And there are some in the NIL business. They're saying there may be some upfront money maybe going down, maybe some old bad games, which is still dangerous. And if we're not playing that game, I totally understand it, because like there's no guarantees. You can still do business up until signing day, because all this is business. So if you got a deal that could break something and the season play out, that's still a possibility, because it's business on the table. And we've gotten quarterbacks late. It's like I said in the intro, but this is not the first time we went into the season with no quarterback really for the class and the fan base trying to figure out recruiting. One thing I know, this logo is going to get blue chip quarterbacks. They're going to find a way to make that happen, man. Whether it's Frank Slate or whatever we make, how we do it. If it's Anthony Richardson made his ranking going up in the rankings and him becoming a blue chipper, then cool, but they got to find a way. There's no way we go 2 cycles in a row with no blue chip quarterback after Nick Evers last year and that debacle.
That I think that's also part of the frustration with Rashada is you had Nick Evers and you get a new coaching staff come in, and it seems like at the time that they're into it, they're fine, they're cool with the new coaching staff, and then he gets pushed out of the class, and you flip a kid from Central Michigan.
I don't know if pushed out is fair. I think they made demands.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably a little bit more to the story, Nick. I mean, you certainly have conversations that you may have that ground you in that.
But you're right.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that ground you in that, and then I certainly don't want to tell you that you're wrong, but I do, I think that there's a little bit of push and pull that comes with me offering you a scholarship, opportunity, and I don't know if there was as much pull, as there was pull on both sides. And it could have been a mutual decision, right? I mean, Billy Napier is very different than Dan Mullen. Maybe expectations are different. That relationship is brand new. I don't think that, Billy Napier and Nick Evers were talking when he was at Louisiana, right? So you're building a new relationship, and maybe, what you're looking for and maybe what you're asking for out of your quarterback is different. And, some people might say, hey, I'm not about that, right? I've got other options. Maybe I don't want to jump through those hoops. But again, not saying that you're wrong, but
yeah, that's all finding Danny into the next class. You can't find a quarterback. Now you get what we got now. The fans a little bit uneasy. Some people are unhinged, which is sad. Relax, get it together.
So it's also different. So like we're all on Twitter a lot. I'm on the message board a lot because it's my job.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, Gator fans are the worst. And I'm like, the section that you're interacting with, if you're saying that, the ones that are on the message board, the ones that are on Twitter, the ones that you're seeing being the loudest, it's less than 5% of the overall fan base.
5,
Right.
like that's like 2, maybe 1.
2%. I didn't want to say like 1 because I don't know if that is or isn't. But it's a small fraction of what the overall fan base is. And what social media has done has just given people a microphone that maybe shouldn't have a microphone.
And not only a microphone for them to spew off ridiculous things, and I'm guilty of spewing off ridiculous things, but it's to be able to have basically the phone number of the person that you want to spew ridiculous things to, right?
Yeah.
Right, right.
I mean, you've seen multiple members of the staff, well, at least one, have to tweet about how hard that they're working. We're trolling staff member, not we, but there's people in our fan base trolling staff members, trolling coaches, trolling the athletic department as a whole, right? It's given people direct contact to people, and to say that that's not going to affect somebody's psyche or that's not going to cause them to become defensive of their hard work is laughable, right? I mean, these are real people trying to do real jobs the same way that they don't look over your shoulder at your job and tell you all of the things that you're doing wrong, right?
It's just too many layers to things to be adding people, right? It's just too much business going on. There's a lot of layers to all of this. To be adding these people and blaming them for like recruiting, hey, it's a lot going on. Everybody's trying to learn this space, and as you can see, Florida's reeling a little bit as an organization. So to be coming at these people about business, it's just not that simple, man. You got to be a little bit more. I'm asking a lot from like the average person to be a little bit more smart. I think that's the problem. We're asking too much, man.
just when did it like, hey, be a good person?
That's a lot.
That's wild.
I think part of it is like realizing what is your tweet going to do, or what is your comment going to solve, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be critical, right?
Be rational, though.
You have to be rational. Let's talk a little bit about that open letter, right? So I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, an open letter goes out to a database of, I don't know how many UAA email addresses from Billy Napier, announcing a variety of things, including a reiteration of how hard they're working, that NIL has changed the game. Nick, I know that you had mentioned, I think on 3, that it was a couple of weeks in the works, but are you guys surprised that we're getting an open letter to the fans in June, 6-7 months after you take on a new role?
Yeah, I think I'm not mad at it, but just because of the uncertainty of what everything is. I think everybody's uncertain. I think Billy's uncertain with we're recruiting going in this NIL world, and I think the fans are too. So just trying to get everybody just to relax a little bit. Is it going to work? Probably not. I don't know. Like, you can't go right or wrong. I'm not mad at his leadership and him addressing it, because it's like an attack, right? Like the troll is a little bit like different. Even with the way the media games that played out between all of the attorneys, the agents, whatever you want to call them, it's just a lot going on, and the logo is involved. So I'm not mad at him with the way he came out in the past and did an open letter. Sometimes you got to address some things. If you bunker down and don't say anything, no press or no letter, then it gets a little bit like, yo, what the hell is going on? This man needs to say something. So I'm not mad at it. That's my take.
So neither of you are prescribing to what we were told by listen, the people that told us, hey, this isn't in response to this week. This isn't in response to one recruit, not in response to the reaction among the social media for what's happening in recruiting. This is something that we've had planned out for weeks since the spring speaking tour is done, to continue to keep an open dialogue. Nothing he said in there was different than what he said at any of the stops or anything he's said publicly since December 1st.
I buy that on face value. I'll take face value on that.
I buy that Twitter and the message boards represent a very small selection and vocal, vocal minority of
every fan
number of people that were on that email listserv, right?
Oh,
Well, that email list goes out to anyone. So I bought.
That's what I mean.
I bought my dad tickets to baseball, and I got that email. I'm like,
that's what I mean.
There's
a couple 100,000 people that probably got that email.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think that Ricky Hurtado, big fan. I don't think that Billy Napier, that group, is trying to satiate the needs of like 200, right? Very vocal people. I don't think the average fan knows, no offense, Nick, like on three, right? I don't think that the average fan that like is just casual, that maybe goes to a football game, is like reading 247, right? I mean, you guys cater to the fanatic part of it.
Yeah.
But I think that there's things in that letter that he explained. I don't buy that it was to try to calm a very small group of 500 people, maybe less.
I didn't read it, so I thought it was open letter.
That's the spirit.
I be busy, bro. No, I'm just keeping it a bean. You know, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But I thought it was an open letter to address this. So I am like a little bit thrown off now. I take that for face value. He emailed it to who it was for. I thought it was an open letter on Twitter from his account or something to keep it a bean.
Oh no, this is just an email that was describing all the hard work that they're doing and how NIL has changed. And
who put family business out there like that? Who put it on the streets? Let's get them out of here.
Hey, Auntie left the cookout and she was immediately on her Facebook page, putting out all the secrets, Corey.
We losing recipes.
The other thing is they I think the timing of it, like, listen, like, hey, maybe this isn't the week to do it, but I think they'd already bought ad space because it was printed in the Gainesville Sun yesterday, like in the actual physical paper. Let you know they still print a physical paper.
I assure you that this is not just sitting down one day, Ricky Hurtado, who's the football PR guy, and Billy Napier on a Wednesday night saying, you know what this fan base needs is an open letter. Let's get to writing, right?
You don't think they're seeing stink tweets?
I think they are seeing the stink tweets. They're seeing them. Stink tweets.
Oh, man. All right, boys. Silk, get us a Gramco ad read, and then we'll bring Morgan Frazier onto the show.
Shout out to the great folks at thegramco.com. Be sure to visit thegramco.com. Use coupon code SG20SG for 25% off. I'm sorry, SG25 for 25% off of all Gramco products, gummies, wake and bake coffee, CBD products, hard candy. They got it all. Again, SG25 for 25% off of all products. It's all federally legal, shipped to your mailbox discreetly. Hey, Morgan, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
I love it. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today on Stadium and Gale. For those that don't know, Morgan Frazier is a 3-time NCAA champion at UF in the gymnastics program and now works with student athlete NIL as a general counsel. Just graduated from George Washington University Law School, where she focuses on legislation, rules, discussion, and brands around name, image, and likeness. So obviously, with everything that's happened over the last couple of days in Gator Nation, and certainly as we near the 1-year anniversary of name, image, and likeness legislation here in Florida, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about your time at UF, and then certainly the work that you're doing with NIL. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited for this discussion.
Perfect.
Well, before we get into that, I'm looking at your Zoom set here. Very impressive. Those look like some national championship trophies behind you.
Yeah, I got my Natty Champ trophies in the back. Got the SEC banner, I guess, on this side. That was from our first SEC championship my freshman year. I took it as a little memento after we won. Unsure if I was allowed to, but I did it anyways.
But it's there.
Yeah, it's there. The leotard behind me it was gifted to the seniors, my class. So me, Bridget Sloan, Bridget Caquado, and Bianca. That was the first national championship winning leotard that we wore back in 2013. So I guess you can say I got a little bit of a Gator shrine behind me, but I love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Morgan, before we get into the NIL discussion, I want to chat with you a little bit about your time at UF as a gymnast. talk just a little bit about how, I guess, about your gymnastics career and how you knew that there was, going to be an opportunity for you to compete at the highest level and ultimately, decide to choose University of Florida to continue your career.
Yeah, so gymnastics is a little bit different situation than football. We were recruited at such a young age. I was recruited when I was 15 years old. So very young. And I was even late to the game. A lot of my teammates had already been recruited 8th grade, 7th grade at that time. So I was late in the gate in gymnastics. Florida really came on a chance for me being recruited by them. I was a very good gymnast in the state of Florida. I was ranked top 10 nationally on floor, on beam, and in the all around. So I had a chance. I just didn't know Florida was always, I didn't know it was in the cards for me. I was being heavily recruited by Georgia, LSU, Michigan. I was leaning towards Georgia, which I'm sure Gator fans probably don't want to hear that. So Florida, when Rhonda sent me an email, I'll never forget. This was November. It was for an email I'd sent her in August. And she was like, hey, we have this opportunity just opened up. We'd love for you to come to Gainesville to have a conversation with you. So that's when I knew. And stepping onto campus, I loved the team. I've always loved the University of Florida. Grew up going to gym meets. I'm from Orlando, so not too far of a drive. We'd have buses that would take us from our club gym there, as we had multiple girls on the team, Melanie Sinclair, Amanda Castillo, Ashley Kerr, Tiffany Murray, a couple other Gator greats all came from my club gym. So it was fun getting to cheer them on. And I loved the swamp. I loved, like I said, the team environment, the opportunities at Florida, just Gator Nation in general. All those things led me to commit to UF. And I'm extremely happy that I did. I was an early enrollee. So I graduated high school in December and I started at Florida prior to turning even 18 years old. I was still 17 years old. So I was a little baby on campus, but I loved it. Very thankful that I was given that opportunity to come. My career at Florida personally didn't work out how I wanted it to. I battled numerous injuries. I fractured my back pretty bad. I had 3 ankle surgeries in under 20 months. So it really didn't work out for me just due to body issues, but I still made the best of it. I took on a different role with my teammates. I wanted to be the best in the classroom. I wanted to represent and take any sort of load, pressure, etc., stresses off my teammates so that they could perform the best that they can. So a different role. I might not have been, the one scoring the perfect 10s, but I still had my job to do. Heavily involved with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. I was historian, then later I was voted president. So heavily involved with, internal UF, the board of directors with, at the time, Jeremy Foley, working hand in hand with him, helping improve just the athlete community and well-being in general. So I just did everything, like I said, in my willpower to contribute, to be a part of that team and help us win 3 national championships and 2 SEC championships.
Morgan, what was that mentally like for you? Obviously, you're ranked top 10 nationally as a gymnast. You come to UF, you're sidelined with injuries. So you go from, competing all the time and consistently being at the top to being on the sideline. And I know that can be tough mentally beyond just the physical piece of it. What was that process like for you in dealing with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Florida was the best of times in my life and the absolute worst time of my life. Like it's hard knowing that your entire dream, I would train 30 plus hours a week from the time I was 10 years old to 17 to achieve my dream of being a collegiate gymnast, and to have that taken away, it affected me greatly, like depression, anxiety, like the eating disorders, you name it. I was dealing with it. And then on top of all of that, I also felt like I couldn't express that in front of people because it's that guilt that, well, I don't want to detract this. I don't want my emotions to show in front of my teammates and they get distracted. Like, I'm not competing. I don't want it to be a distraction to them. So bottling it and holding that in from everybody too, yeah, it was tough. I felt alone. Some teammates obviously knew what I was going through. I confided in them, confided with our team trainer, extremely helpful during that time period, but it was tough. It was, it was extremely tough. But honestly, healing from that is only, I think, made me a better person, and just the ability to connect with these athletes about, mental health and resources, and learning from my mistakes of I should have spoken out. I should have talked to more people, my teammates, confiding in them afterwards, them saying, we had no idea you're like, we didn't know. So I'm happy to use my platform now to be a resource for those athletes who are going through similar mental struggles.
Morgan, what was your healing process like? What did you do to get to that space where you're good now?
Yeah, so therapy. I did that in college. I saw a therapist. But for me, it was taking time just to reflect internally of, okay, college was just one portion of my life. Like, there's no professional gymnastics league. There's nothing like that. And just to be realistic, so applying to law school, like, as silly as that seems, that actually helped me heal. And when, like, moving away from the state of Florida, I was going on to something bigger and better. I was leaving that next chapter. I had a different purpose, yes, but also reaching back out to my teammates, because I did feel like a fraud. I did always have that sense of guilt saying that I was a national champion, because, my name wasn't listed as the perfect 10 or the 9975s. So reaching out, one of my best friends, Bridget Sloan, is actually a bridesmaid in my upcoming wedding. She really helped me. I was frank with her, and she said, no, Morgan, we needed you. Like, you had that role to play that no one else could do. You were integral in this way. And that, to me, helped so much with my healing journey, and getting past, just getting that recognition from my teammates.
That's really, because I think they call it like imposter syndrome, but that's really interesting to hear from you, because it's, I joked before, I'm like, look at that, you've got a leotard from the national championship, these trophies behind you. I think a lot of the stuff that goes on in a student athlete's mind is just like, we don't think about it unless you've gone through it and you've put in the hours and the time. And like you said, it doesn't go the way you had it envisioned. You don't really think about that. You're like, oh, well, Morgan Frazier, yeah, she was a national champ, multi-time national champion. Like, she must have had a blast. But there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and I did. Like, I did have a blast. It was great, but it was still like that imposter syndrome. But now, like, looking back, healing from it, it's cool to be. I was a part of a very special time in Gator athletics history and Florida gymnastics history, and nothing could take that. Nothing, like, no one, no person can take that away from me. Which, it's given me a long couple, like, many years to get to this point to be able to feel comfortable saying that. But I am very thankful for what I experienced at Florida.
Nice.
I love that. So, Morgan, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you're doing now. So go to George Washington, great law school. Saw that you interned with the Players Association for MLS. And now you're working with, and I just want to make sure that I get the name right, Student Athlete NIL. And I also know that you guys held your first annual NIL summit. So you've been with them for about a year. We're just right about the year that NIL legislation went into effect here in Florida and a number of other places. Talk to us a little bit about what your organization is doing, and then a little bit about that NIL summit that you all just had.
Yeah, so Student Athlete NIL, or SNIL for short, we're pretty much an agency of records for brands and other collectives as they enter the NIL space. So we do a lot of consulting with them. Anything that they might need, we'll do. So on the collective side, that's, an extremely hot topic. We'll meet with groups of donors, boosters, whatever term you want to use for it, it's all, the same. We help them form collectives, manage the back end, from A to Z. On the brand side, a lot of it has been focused with the NIL Summit, giving these brands a larger platform to have these discussions in front of student athletes of what does it take to be successful in this field, but not in, like, I guess, different ones. So, like, Celsius, they were concerned with, ROI. They had their brand ambassador program. They were using the summit as almost a recruiting tool to meet and greet with athletes, to go over elevator pitches with athletes, read resumes, excited to see who fits in their brand. Invesco, completely different. They were all about, financial literacy. What do you need to know now? Cool, you've made X amount of money. How can you invest that money? How can you save? How can you set yourself up for success? So we were really working with these brands to figure out, this session, the summits, it's our event, but we also want it to be yours as well. You're just as big as a stakeholder as we are in this area. And how can we work together to crush it so that everybody gets, the ROI that they want.
So we're about a year into NIL across the country. Has it gone kind of as everybody anticipated over the last year?
Sure.
Sure. I think everybody had a different view of what NIL would look like. And it's been interesting to see how it's been playing out. I think in like the collective sphere, as well as I think people were disappointed, and at least in the beginning, that all of these brands weren't jumping on NIL deals with athletes. It took a very long time for these brands to come around. But if you look at it, NIL came July 1st. Like, brands didn't really have the heads up. Some might have, but they didn't have NIL dollars structured and factored into their marketing plans. They didn't have that. So now I think year 2, it will be interesting to see more brands jump into it, but more niche brands, like focused on specific sports, like for golf, tennis, gymnastics, etc. I think that's where we're going to see the majority of brands jump in, and more of those like niche brands versus like the Nikes, Adidas, etc.
We saw that a little bit in baseball, and it's probably a sport like a gymnastics. Like there's, I grew up playing baseball, so like I see a product called grinds, and it's like coffee instead of dip, instead of like smokeless tobacco, it's formulated the same way, but it's just coffee grinds in pouches. And nice. You see a bunch of baseball players getting sponsored by that because that's the space that grinds is in. So I think, like you just said, like the niche products that, hey, a football player might not want to go out there and get tackled with coffee in his mouth, but a baseball player trying not to or trying to stop dipping would need that.
Or from falling asleep.
That too. Thanks, Dan. But I think that's the space that maybe we are not looking at, because a lot of Gator fans are like, why isn't Gatorade throwing $10 million at this quarterback to get him to come? And I'm like, well, there's a company is looking for a return on investment. And they're looking for, okay, it doesn't make sense. A leotard company doesn't make sense to sign a football player. It's like, that's not our market.
Definitely. And now too, like some of the earlier brands that hopped in, like we've had discussions with them, just like, what were your regrets of NIL? And they said, oh, we really were just looking at the number of followers. We weren't getting to know the athletes that we were signing. So yes, said, let's just say a quarterback, for instance, could have 500,000 followers, but if he doesn't have a high engagement rate with his following, if he can't really connect with the audience that the brand is trying to reach, that's a wash. They're not getting any sort of ROI from them. And at the summit, brands were preaching, yes, like we're looking to see if we're a match, like online dating, do we have the same values? What does your audience connect with our audience? Could you bring us a different audience, one that we're trying to get to, but also they're looking at what schools are you at? Is the school that you're at and where you're from the demographic that we're trying to reach, the states that we're trying to reach, the region, etc.? Are you a star player? Some of the larger brands are looking at that. Like, do you have the ability to capitalize and get a large audience, but also can you hold a conversation with us? That is a huge part that's being overlooked too, especially with these kids who are spokespersons for brands. Can you talk to can you talk to us? Can you talk to an audience? Can you convey a message? You sound intelligent, things along this line, media trained. And that's what, to me, is what's exciting to see. Like, hey, how are these athletes now going to capitalize on what they learned and become almost like mini PR agencies, boosting themselves up that way?
That's a whole new area where I think the student athlete needs to be educated and to learn, because there might be, just like you said, social media, these apps will just give you what your engagement is, and you just take a screenshot of that and you send it to somebody. But there's probably a lot of companies that just saw, 500,000 followers. Hey, that's going to be great for us. But there's a lot more, like you just detailed, that goes into that. What kind of work are you guys doing or can be done to help the athletes market themselves and make their name a brand, and then once they've done that, then be able to pitch that brand to a company?
Yeah, so the NIL Summit, just one tool. Ideally, we want to grow that to where it's like Comic-Con. It's like South by Southwest, a huge conference for every athlete who can go to get to learn these schools about how to best set yourself up for monetization. Once you get that, how do you capitalize it? And then how do you further that for the future? So that is what we're trying to grow. I think year one was huge success. Super excited. We had a lot of Gators there, which was great to see. But then also working with different collectives on this education piece, partnering with Advanced NIL, Courtney Altimus, Luke Fedlam, awesome individuals. They're great. Luke's an expert, all things legal, Courtney financial. But then we come in, and what we're planning on doing is having NIL power hours, I guess, with these athletes, focusing on these different aspects of NIL and doing deeper dives once a week with these athletes, but also with the community at large. Because the largest thing right now is education.
Mm-hmm.
And
real quick, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Morgan.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Oh, okay. Real quick, what's it like getting these guys to show up for that type of education? Is it like mandatory by the schools and the programs, or what is your outreach like, and what's your success rate?
So it depends. It depends on what the school can do. And that just boils down to state law. A lot of schools are just in the gray area of what they can and cannot do. But for us, it's more so like, I go and say like word of mouth with the athletes, but our account executives reaching out to the team captains and getting them all on board, like almost like Division I, the SAC model. Like we go to meetings, 1 rep per team, then take that information back to the team, and whoever wants it, wants it. Like not everybody's interested in NIL. Some athletes are only interested in certain aspects of NIL. So that's what we're doing now, working though with schools to create curriculum and that athletes can take though for credit. So that's one thing at state that we're helping consult with.
Morgan, I want to ask you, and this is probably going to be geared more towards basketball and football, just, as we're talking about size of deals and everything else. A lot of state laws that were written regarding NIL were kind of purposefully nebulous or with a lot of gray area for the courts to kind of decide where we go. Over the last year, there's certainly been some clarification on some things, but for the most part, it's still a bit nebulous. How long do you think until we get kind of a more clear picture of what's the most sustainable long-term NIL model?
I wish I knew. I'd be a millionaire if I knew that question. I don't think, honestly, anything will be sustainable until the federal government kicks in and creates legislation. Who knows when that will happen, if that will happen.
Because they've not shown any real interest, right? I mean, there's been a couple things, but
they really haven't.
NCAA went to them and Congress was like, hey, we're going to look at your antitrust status. And NCAA was like, you know what? We don't worry about this NIL stuff. We got it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and it seems like, too, whenever there's a dead period, like something big happens in the news and, they get distracted. But I think a couple of things will have to come into place. Like I'm interested, athletes just had to file taxes for the first time. I think it'll be interesting to see what the IRS does because the NCAA may not investigate, but Uncle Sam will. They'll come after you. I think it'll be interesting to see what these pending lawsuits, like the Johnson case that's out there, the National College Players Association, to see that's against the NLRB. But then we have Johnson, saying that athletes should be paid under the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSHA. So I think that will tilt the shift, but also no athlete has filed as of like 2 days ago for the NLRB unfair labor charges. And I don't know if you guys are caught up, but a couple of months ago, the NLRB basically issued a memo stating that, at least private universities, they could be looked into as employees of the school, student athletes. And it was opening up the door for litigation and for that to come in. So that's what I'm interested to see if any of these athletes will jump on that and file unfair labor charges. I think a mix of things will have to come together for there to be federal legislation.
What are your thoughts on the sustainability right now? I know that we said it's probably not going to be sustainable until they get involved, but at least in the football world, we're seeing huge numbers getting thrown around. We have agents involved. We have deals that are apparently being talked about before a player enrolls, which is in violation of whatever NCAA rules they've chosen to follow that day. What are your thoughts on kind of the current state of what we're hearing in the football world and maybe basketball world at least?
I mean, I think it's sustainable right now. I think collectives, if there's a Power 5 who doesn't have a collective, that a school, they're behind the game. By next year, every Power 5 institution will have a collective, whether it's for all sports or just specific sports like a football, basketball, baseball, etc. collective. That's sustainable for now. I think it will just depend upon, two different factors. How does it affect recruiting, and will the NCAA actually look into and punish some schools who are in violation? But also, how will the ROI be defined, and how will that affect the investment that these donors are putting into the collectives? The market will eventually correct itself, but that's what I'm very interested in seeing for year 2, especially with this new football season coming up.
What do you, now knowing everything that you know, what would you, or I guess if you take away everything you know now, what would 17-year-old Morgan have done with an opportunity to make money off of her name, image, likeness, and being on a team that was as successful as you guys were?
Man, I see. It's a hard question because back 2013, it wasn't a creator economy. So looking through that lens, probably not. I think it would have come from like Gainesville clothing shops or restaurants, et cetera, like Chipotle. I don't think it would have been more so like the social media, just because that wasn't really a thing.
2013, we were all still using like that grainy, stock Instagram filter that if you opened up Instagram, you're like, oh, everyone has the same weird Polaroid camera, huh?
Yeah. So I don't think it would have necessarily been like big social, but in the lens that it is today, back to back national champions. I think I probably would have gotten some smaller deals. But at least it would have given me money to put away and save more for law school, which would have been nice. But I wouldn't have been like the star on my team. I would have been the side hustler.
How much does your experience, though, I guess, benefit you now in your role? And just knowing what opportunities that there are, what opportunities that there could be, knowing what it's like to be a student athlete.
I think it's a unique position. There's not many attorneys out here like me in this NIL space who are former athletes, very few. And I think I'm young. I can connect with these athletes. They feel comfortable talking with me. I'm at the summit. Some of them still thought I was an athlete, which I was very thankful for.
Thank you.
I was like, wow, this is great. But no, it's great because I'm able to give them frank advice, and they can ask me open questions that they don't feel comfortable asking their coaches or other, say, licensed attorneys, other professionals. Granted, I can't give them the advice just given I'm not licensed in Florida. I'm not licensed in certain state. Like, I'm not your attorney. But general advice, but also like going back to like, the mental health. Like I had a wonderful conversation with Sarah Fuller, which I'm sure you guys remember, the Vandy soccer player turned kicker, just about all this. And she was asking me questions that she's like, wow, like I haven't even thought about how mental health could play in this certain area. Can I get your number and explore this further with you? So just being able to form those connections, but also having the more meaningful conversations, that's been great for my position. I mean, I've been helping these athletes, almost giving back. One of my big things of wanting to work in athletics was it gave me so much in life, and I want to use it as a way to give back professionally. So if I can do this by at least mentoring, consulting with, counseling, whatever it may be, like, I'm very happy to do that. But the frank conversations, that's what I'm having right now with these athletes.
You muted, Dan.
Thanks so much, Morgan. Sorry about that. Wanted to I guess wrap up with a final question, at least from me. What do you think? And I know that you said that most colleges and universities, are at least Division I, will have collectives by this year, if not hopefully by the end of next year for all of those schools. But what do you see next over the next year, 2 years for NIL as we look down the path?
Yeah, so I think in the future, the conversation is going to ramp up as to whether athletes should be classified as employees. That conversation's just going to keep growing. Collective bargaining, a lot of conversations like that right now. What will it look like? What will college athletics look like? Who will be the leader? All of those questions. My biggest concern is, where does Title IX fit in all of this? How will Title IX be affected by all of this? On paper, Title IX is the strongest force in college athletics, but what does that mean? What does that mean if they become employees? I think that's what scares me. So obviously, I want female athletes, non-revenue producing men's sports, women's sports to be protected in the case that athletes are considered employees or whatever that may look like. So that's, I think, the future from a legal standpoint that my sights are set to and what I'm interested in. But until then, I just think we'll see more or less the same, like in the collective news of how is it affecting the transfer portal? How will it affect the transfer portal after this year? What's going to be the chatter when Texas doesn't do well this year, hopefully, or USC? Like, what is that going to look like? That's what I'm interested in seeing. I got to stay tuned, though.
I love it. Morgan, let us know where everybody can follow you on social media. And then thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @Morgan Frazier. Feel free to shoot me a DM. Happy to talk about all things NIL.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Morgan. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
great conversation.
Thank you so much. Best of luck with everything. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great.
Great conversation with Morgan Frazier. Boys, before we get too much deeper, do you want to just do the Scott Strickland interview now? It's a good time.
Yeah, why not?
All right, perfect.
Bite to bite.
Back-to-back interview sponsored by our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Visit them, homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code STADIUM and Gale at checkout. Get 15% off of your order. Again, a couple of new Florida shirts just dropped, including the Florida baseball script logo. They have a men's and women's track and field t-shirt that just came out. That's really cool. 17 different individual UF items. Homefieldapparel.com. Promo code Stadium and Gale at checkout. I believe they're at 50-ish schools now. So if you have a friend, relative, coworker, neighbor, whomever you might buy a gift for, visit homefieldapparel.com, promo code Stadium and Gale. And let's get into the Scott Strickland interview. All right, we'll cut this and then we'll bounce out in 3, 2, 1. Gentlemen, we are back. Thank you, Mr. Strickland, for your time. Nick, Silk, how do you think the interview went? Any thoughts from that interview that you want to carry away?
Had plenty more questions, plenty more time, but I do want the fans to know that it's only a certain amount of time we could get them, and we can't ask absolutely everything we want to, man. I know we're gonna get some replies about, hey, you guys didn't ask him about this or that, man. But overall,
Let him off the hook.
we let him off the hook, man. And also, this was before that conversation was before all the whiffs, man. So cut us some slack.
We get that a lot. You get that a lot in the podcast space, in the journalist space. Typically, I remember this. I remember it. You know, when I was negative to Will Muschamp, my first year in 2013, he was just coming off of almost a Notre Dame loss away from playing for a national championship, and I was like, hey, losing to Miami is embarrassing. He shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have lost this game. Fans were like, who's this clown? Get him out of here. And then I couldn't be negative enough the rest of the year when it's 4-8.
And now your nickname's Negative Nick, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy.
It's the bag.
That's the bag that I've chosen.
It's the bag you chosen, man. Kickers and negativity, man. So it's a wild bag.
It's punters.
Punters and negativity.
I mean, no offense, man. No offense to the punters.
Yeah. But yeah, it'll happen. And like, there's a lot of, open up like a message board thing for a press conference. And it's, hey, ask so-and-so why he's a dickhead in this. And you're like, all right, well, I'm not going to address the football coach at his press conference. Hey, dickhead, why aren't you doing better in recruiting? Like, there's ways to ask questions. But like Silk said, also, there's time restraints. And Florida hadn't swung and whiffed on 3 straight fastballs.
It's all good, man. We've been here before, man. We're gonna gather the troops, man. We're gonna do what we gotta do, man. Everybody just stay out of the coach's mentions, man. That's just weird. Y'all just vibe out.
Yeah, we are excited, though. We have a lot of great interviews in the upcoming weeks. We've got a couple of big names that we're just working through some scheduling issues with that we're super excited to bring on to this show. We've got a couple former Florida Gator legends that will be joining us in the not too distant future. I mean, if you are interested in hearing a good interview that I really enjoyed this morning, check out Silk's show, The Roll Up, where they interviewed D Webb. I thought it was a great conversation, really gave a different angle on a lot of interviews that we would have gotten into some of it, but they hung out heavy today. So go check that out. But
I appreciate that, man.
We got a lot of great content for you guys. Let's get into some of the news in Gator sports, Gator recruiting. Probably the big news that came out. Actually, you know what? We'll do this kind of in order. The Gators did grab a commitment from Isaiah Nixon, 6'4", 225-pound edge from Lakewood High School in St. Pete. We mentioned last week that he was a guy that had committed from UCF at the time, and it looked very positive. He had just come off his official visit from the University of Florida that he was likely going to announce. He did make that announcement on I believe it was last Tuesday, so about a week ago. He announced his commitment to the University of Florida, 4-star, ranked 167th on threes consensus, the number 23 defensive end, number 34 player in Florida. Nick, Silk, any thoughts on Isaiah Nixon?
Good. I'm glad they pressed him. He's been a little bit lackadaisical on the kid. Grew up a Gator fan. The offer, he was waiting on. So it kind of happened all fast. He decommitted and then flipped the next day. So I'm just glad they pressing. It was right on time. We got a couple guys in the trenches, but I like the take. He earned the offer at a camp, which was dope. What's your overall take, Nick? And he's ranked pretty good too. So it's not like it's. I'm not a star chaser type guy, but it checks all the boxes as far as like the ranking and whatnot. Keep the fans a little chill. Not a 3-part project.
Hometown kid, right from Buchholz here.
Nope, wrong kid, Nick.
Nope,
wrong kid. This is the one from Lakewood High School in St. Pete.
You see,
got him mixed up. We got a couple guys, like you said, in the trenches. Have seen the offensive linemen and the way that they're getting them. I think it's good. Florida's where are they up to now? 7, 8 commits.
You caught me a little off guard there.
The number, I don't know the number exactly. Yeah, but you chose that path, man. So now you got to give it to us. There you
go. 8. Right. You've gotten to Isaiah Nixon from Lakewood, like you said. It's interesting to see a kid because he's got the stars, like you said, Silk. 4. Our on 3, we have him as the 167th player in the country. It's just interesting to see that there wasn't like now we're getting kids to flip from UCF, because I think at least people did recognize like, hey, this is a good player, and hopefully one that'll stick. 6'4", 225, big kid. Watched a little bit of his film from Corey Bender's story, but I like the take.
Yeah, no, I definitely like the take. I think a lot of people were very surprised a few months ago. I think mentioned on the show last week that he committed to UCF. But Gators get a good one. Those are the kind of guys that you want to get. Obviously, you want to add him with a couple other elite players, but I like his film, and I think that he's going to make an impact here at the University of Florida, currently ranked on 3 as the Gators' highest rank commitment. And then
restore a little order, man. Let everybody know what it is. UCF is still UCF. When we want stuff, we just go over there and just pick it off the tree.
That's right. Well, speaking of UCF, on Friday, DeMarcus Bowman announced, and I know I'm skipping, we'll talk about this. So on Friday, DeMarcus Bowman announced that he would be entering the transfer portal. And then today on Monday, announced that he's going to attend the University of Central Florida. DeMarcus Bowman, transfer from Clemson, came to Florida, had very high hopes, former 5-star out of Lakeland here in Florida. And has now decided to attend UCF. Guys, what are your thoughts there? Are you guys surprised? Did it catch you a little off guard? What are your thoughts ultimately on the DeMarcus Bowman situation as we close that chapter?
I mean, we'll have to talk about the whole article. I mean, not article, but the whole dismissal at this point of everybody to kind of get into our takes of that. So all 3 guys were dismissed. Finley Graham, 2 of the Lakeland guys, Finley Graham and DeMarcus Bowman. Not a whole lot of explanations, and staffs never really explain when they do stuff like this. It's really like to protect the players. So my overall take is, just let down a little bit. Bowman coming from Clemson, we all had high hopes of, flashes of what he did at Lakeland, and also when he got on campus, he had some highlights in practice. So we got to see some flashes then, but we never got to see it on the actual field doing games, man. So it's unfortunate they didn't work out, but this thing is fragile what Billy's on right now. As far as recruiting, keeping the guys in the fold, winning the locker room, all of that is very important, man. And if there's guys not following the room, I mean, it's one thing losing recruits. If you lose that locker room early in this thing and players not respecting you for holding up the rules and holding players accountable, you can lose more than just recruits, that we could bounce back on. So if players not following rules, bro, you got to hold players accountable. This is not babysitting. It's not high school, and that seems to be the case, man, from what I'm hearing. So him going to UCF, I hope he gets it together. Does he have to sit out a year? Because this is the second transfer.
I believe so.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, see. I hope he figures it out, because I'm a fan of Bowman regardless, man. I want all these kids to absolutely make it, man. But I'm just a little disappointed, man. Just like it didn't work out.
It can go bad. I mean, you sat down with Janoris a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Will Muschamp tried to make an example out of him. You would have loved to have him on Jackrabbit on the roster for any of those teams. But I agree with you. Like, I think so. The bylaw that I'm told that they're using, because Florida was above. I think I had them at 90 or 91 scholarships. Right. NCAA bylaw 15.5.1.7. named aid after departure of a head coach, essentially. And Lincoln Riley did this at USC, I think, with 10 plus guys. You can just straight up cut a kid. Tell them, like, hey, you're not going to be on our football team. This bylaw will allow the university to keep you on scholarship. So if you just love USC, and I think USC had 3 guys that did. If you just love Florida, you can say, that's cool. You're going to pay for my books, tuition, room, board. I'm going to get a degree from the University of Florida, and that's good enough for me. Can't play football, can't play another sport, but you don't have to leave, and your financial situation isn't going to change. But it also lets somebody go and go to another school. And right now, and we can talk about the portal and how crazy it's gotten. I like that players aren't being held to a school that, like, coaches aren't even held to staying. And if a coach cuts you in the past, you'd have had to transfer, sit out a year, lose a year of eligibility. So I'm glad they don't have to do that now. But I think I still have Florida at like 86 scholarships. So.
Yeah, I think that we still have some more. Silk mentioned it. DeMarcus Bowman is also joined by Mordecai McDaniel, Chris Thomas, and Finley Graham. I've seen officially that Chris Thomas and Finley Graham have entered the transfer portal. Haven't heard if Mordecai McDaniel has. I would imagine that he will be. He is certainly the one with the most playing time out of that group. There was some initial rumors that Marcus Burke was a part of that list that has since been told that was false. But the Gators do lose Mordecai McDaniel, Chris Thomas, Finley Graham, and DeMarcus Bowman. And I would imagine that we can expect at least a few more over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and with Marcus Burke, we all just got some bad information from Florida. Hearing the backstory on that, it was initially that he was going to be cut, and some leaders, some voices on the team, guys like an Anthony Richardson, a Javon Dexter, made a case to Billy. So it wasn't Burke was initially. Nice. From what we heard, was going to get cut, and some of the guys who, I don't know what they call it, but let's say like a leadership council, guys who have been identified by the staff and by their fellow teammates as these are the guys that are going to speak for the team, made a case for Marcus Burke. So he's got another chance, and you want to see these kids, like Silk just said. I hope Bowman figures it out and finishes his career great at UCF. You want to see these kids figure it out and reach their maximum potential.
Yeah, another thing I want to say too, whether it's academics or whatever that these kids are going through, man. When these universities are recruiting them, they tell them the resources that they have at their disposal. You got to be humble enough to ask for help, whether it's academics, mental health, physical health, whatever it may be, whatever your situation is. There's enough resources around you to get help. But you got to want to help yourself, man. These schools are not going to babysit anybody, man. And all of this is, it's not a privilege. It's a right, man. People work hard to go to these schools, bro. So, shout out to Burke for getting that second chance and the teammates for trying to keep him in the fold. But in real life, man, the boss don't be giving you second chances like that, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to happen in the real world, bro.
Oh, absolutely. The Gators also grabbed over the weekend a commitment from Buchholz High School defensive lineman Gavin Hill. Actually, a really cool video of Gavin Hill, dad hearing the news that he was being offered a scholarship. So definitely encourage you to seek that video out. We'll certainly share it on the Stadium Miguel timeline. 6'3", 245 pound. Go ahead.
Dads don't be getting excited like that though, man. I'd have been lit.
Yeah. I think he was a little shocked. Sorry, I didn't know where you were going. I think you could definitely tell that there was an emotional wave that overtook him.
Yeah, he was like a little chill, probably like a surprise. But bro, I would have been screaming in Billy's ear, man.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, Mike. Let's get it. But it was a dope moment, man. It was a dope moment. I'm glad they captured that. Pops was probably at work or something, man, because he wasn't on the visit, man. So I thought that was dope stuff. My bad.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. 259th ranked overall player on the On3 consensus, 4-star. They have him ranked as the 37th best defensive lineman and the 52nd best player in Florida. Body bagged Mario Cristobal in Miami to grab that commitment. But certainly a highly ranked guy, a guy in UF's backyard, earned himself an offer not too long ago. So really a good get, in my opinion, for UF. I think that he's going to be a guy that has a pretty strong career, has a good frame, can grow into that frame. I think that he's going to be a good player at the University of Florida. I'm very high on Gavin Hill. And again, a guy who, unless you follow recruiting very, very closely, might be a guy whose name just popped up on your radar. And maybe you're wondering, why did it take, Florida so long to offer a guy that's so close? I mean, you have to remember that just because he's close doesn't mean that there's been a huge opportunity in the 7-8 months that Billy Napier and that staff have been there to review everybody's tape. So he went onto campus, earned himself a scholarship, and now, has earned himself an opportunity as a lifelong Gator fan to put on the orange and blue. And then finally, gentlemen, we have the meltdown. Nick, I know we talked a little bit about it, but we have hat on the table, Nick, there. If you're watching on YouTube, Nick put himself a little coffee table or a little nightstand. Put a hat.
We're not hat on the table, man. It's Bush League. Don't take credit for that, bro.
What? Well, obviously, we talked about it at the beginning of the show that Jaden Rashada is going to University of Miami. Chose them over UF, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oregon. What's your opinion and everything that's followed since that commitment? He went on to CBS, announced his commitment. Since then, we've had multiple tweets by conflicting attorneys kind of attacking each other. We've had John Ruiz, who has been connected to an On3 article about the amount of money that they're giving Jaden Rashada. We've seen some recanting of who's associated with giving money written in a Jeremy Crabtree On3 article. We had Jaden Rashada today putting out a statement. Kind of what's your thought on the last 24 hours or so since Jaden Rashada is committed and everything associated with it beyond just where he's going to school?
So go, Nick.
It's. I mean, first off, good for him. Like you made your college commitment. That's a huge deal for any player, not just a quarterback. So good for him. Wish him well.
Very, very impressed by him, by the way, in the commitment video. Very well spoken, very grateful, very thoughtful. Just a very good commitment, I thought, just as an individual.
Yeah, and I've never spoken to him personally, but it seems like a kid with a good head on his shoulders. It did seem like there were other people and other things driving the commitment at times, driving the recruitment at times. So hope that he is himself the person that has to go to school, go to class, wake up and do the workouts and the training and all that. Hope that it's a decision that he's happy with, truthfully. For Florida fans, I think by the time and it was interesting. I think I put it in our DMs and I put it on our message board. I was when the commitment got pushed back. I got from a good source that he was going to go to Miami, and I put it out. I kind of put it on our message board. I was like, "Hey, he's going to take a trip to Miami." And we say it all the time. You want to be the last visit. So like when Rashada had a commitment date of the 18th, and he was going to be at Florida right before that, and not take any other official visits because he had the 7-on-7. You felt really good, and I think once it got pushed back and he was going to go to Miami, I thought, okay, this is where it gets weird. This is where things start changing. So, I think for the most part, we were prepared. The three of us were prepared to know what decision was going to happen by Sunday. That doesn't mean the fan, even if they're being told by somebody who has, knowledge of the situation, doesn't mean you can't be mad about it still. I get that. I'm never going to tell you how to feel, but I think I just knew what it was by well before 4:00 on Sunday or 4:30, whenever he showed up.
Mm-hmm. What's your thought on, and Silk, I want you to jump in as well, but what are your thoughts on everything since then, right? Kind of the conflicting, the comments by, multiple attorneys. You have an On3 article that's throwing around numbers that multiple parties are saying aren't true. And I'm not asking you to disparage your, employer, certainly, but, you kind of almost have a pissing contest between attorneys on different sides and trying to navigate what's true, what's not true. And then ultimately you end with a commitment or with Jaden Rashada, the commitment, having to come out and say, hey, everything that I did was, my choice, and this is what I'm looking for. And, but, still in the background, no matter what his commitment or what his note said, you still know that there's NIL discussions that are happening that are, technically against the NCAA rules.
That's the game. It's just the game. The bad game is just like more blatant. Like now you can do it more blatantly than it was in the past. I'm not mad at the business that business taking place. It's just sloppy business. You know what I'm saying? Like I think everybody should pursue like business in NIL and get the best situation they can for them and their family. But this was just like a little different, man. And it felt like it got nasty and there was ego involved in it. at the end of the day, after everything was said and done, he ends up at Miami, and all the backlash, or like you said, the back and forth between the lawyers is going down. I'm out of it mentally at this point. Like we've lost a kid. Like none of this is gonna get to commit. They can figure out the legalities of who's wrong, who's right. I don't think NCAA is gonna do a thing. But I think some of these parents need to be a little bit cautious about who they're doing business with. Most of these people haven't operated in the NIL space before because NIL is new. But I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, I don't get what the gripe is and the bickering and the fighting back and forth about it at this point. Like, as collective wise, NIL wise, our side, what we got as a Gator family, whatever we got going on, I think it's just trying to move forward, see what's the next on the quarterback board, and figure out the NIL, how we gonna operate in this space, man. But man, after all of it's done, I don't get what we're trying to accomplish at this point with the bickering, bro.
I feel like we've kind of lost ourselves in the sauce, right? I mean, it didn't take very long.
Hey,
I like them protect them defending their name and all of that. They had to do it after because they didn't start this. Like the Gator Collective didn't put anything out in the press, and that's not how this started. So I do respect them for putting out a letter as well, saying like, no, we haven't negotiated with this guy. That's not what it was. It's just not true. And I like that from Heitner and the collective. But like everybody involved at this point, once you defend, to me, I'm just like, it's time to move on, man, and just figure out, family business, bro. Like bickering back and forth, they'll figure that. Let the lawyers figure that out.
Yeah,
definitely. That's also a thing though. Like lawyers, like this is the job is a lot of the job is posturing and arguing. And, and like I said, like,
well, it's advertising and marketing, right?
It makes advertising and marketing. It makes a lot of sense. If I negotiated Dan's deal to still be the third podcaster on Stadium and Gale, hey, I'll put that number out there. I'll put a number out there that I want to be out there.
You still going to take the 13% cut?
Yeah, well, see, I would love to add a gigantic contract and take the 13%. We will advocate for you, Dan. It makes sense, and whether that's based on reality doesn't matter because it's sometimes perception is reality, and if you say something, now that becomes the perception. But I think first off, it wasn't Gators Online that posted the story, which I got. We were getting some flack, and I was like, man, I haven't even read the story yet. What am I getting yelled at? But yeah, I think there's a lot of posturing and a lot of that stuff going on with lawyers, as lawyers will do. I don't think Florida is so. Like when Darren Heitner was on, he was like, Florida is in position or the best at NIL right now. I think they could be in position. I don't think they're the best right now, but I don't think NIL was the driving factor here. And I think Florida, we'll leave it at that.
You don't think Florida was the driving? I mean, this whole thing has been, to me, NIL wise. So I don't think at the final finish line it came down to anything else. That's just me.
I don't think Florida was outbid.
No.
Different. That's different then. Yeah, but
that's what I was trying to walk around.
Yeah, no, I do think that this certainly is
I'm not gonna say outbid, but from what I heard, there was some like immediate stuff that was happening too that Florida wasn't gonna play a game in. If we want to do some innuendo type shit, there was some immediate stuff that from our side we weren't gonna play games with because there's no certainty in any of that. People, and just from like rumors and smokes in the past, we know kids that are ran with bags in the recruiting department, man. It's pretty much just a deposit with no guarantees.
And I've said this to Scott before. I probably should have said it in our interview. If I'm doing 140 miles an hour on I-75 South tonight and there's no cops, am I breaking the law? Like if the law is 70 miles an hour on 75 and I'm doing 140, but there's no one there to enforce the law, am I breaking it?
Now, I think there's a difference between breaking and enforcing. Yeah.
Nah, but I like what Nick is taking it because that's the thing. We're playing by rules that nobody else is playing by. Is what Nick's saying.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, listen, in Florida, and if you want to drive, put it on cruise control at 75 because like, hey, we'll play the game and we'll play it a little bit and we'll go a little bit faster than maybe we're supposed to, but we're not going to be speeding. If no one's enforcing it and the NCAA is the meme of that security guard who wanted to be doing anything else, letting people into a stadium, if that's how the NCAA is enforcing it, you're going to have schools that you're competing with,
Right.
driving 140. And
As they should.
And are you going to be left behind? Because
Bama been driving 200 for like forever. So
Yeah.
better hit
And giving their
140.
kids the cars to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think Florida, my stance on this is I think that Florida is positioned long-term fine in NIL. I do think that they're, just from conversations that we have, and we're not going to put them out there on the airwaves here, but certainly conversations that we have that Florida probably is playing a very different game than some other schools are right now, and what that looks like and how long that's sustainable for UF to continue to play, to not play in those games, and what that means for their future, and how long do those schools that do play those games, is there ever going to be an enforcement? And I think if you remember our Scott Strickland, interview, I think that he's got a lot of questions about the NCAA's enforcement, strategies and what they don't do, if you read between the lines there. So, certainly to compete right now, there's a lot of rule bending and blatant rule unfollowing. And if you see some tweets, I mean, they're out there. I mean, there's people out there, attorneys and businesses, right? If you want to call Life Wallet a business, incriminating themselves on the internet.
Yeah.
Will anything happen? That's up to the NCAA to enforce. And if it doesn't, then why continue to play by rules and hamstring?
Here's the frustrating part. Here's the frustrating part from the fans. Like, we've been hearing that song forever. Like, oh, these teams are going to eventually get caught, and we'll be in a position to reap from it. Bro, nobody's getting caught. And the teams that are getting caught, they're getting slapped on the wrist. It's like no real consequences, man. Are we going to play this game and compete for national championships or what?
Yeah, I mean, Will Wade at LSU got caught, with a
Strong
wiretap
ass
by the
offer.
FBI. And what happened?
Strong ass offer.
Yeah.
Bro,
Not
Nick
much.
Saban and Jimbo Fisher snitched on each other on 4K and nothing happened.
On 4K.
On 4K.
Snitching on 4K.
What are we talking?
And the NCAA is just like they just haven't put their dentures in. There's no bark. There's no bite to the bark. And that's where Florida is. And it's a good question to ask. And I think I know Scott's answer is we are going to continue to play by the rules. But then the follow-up is, what are the rules? There are no rules. If there are rules, they're not being enforced. So are there rules? There aren't. You're playing by some arbitrary rules that you're putting on yourself, and you're falling behind. And I think that's just what the University of Florida, the University Athletic Association at Florida is going to do. They're not going to play the game that you clearly see is being played everywhere else, because there's no repercussions to getting caught doing any of this.
And it shouldn't be a surprise, right? Sorry. So it shouldn't be a surprise. Linda Taylor was on the show 8-10 weeks ago, whatever it was. And she said they're taking a conservative approach on all this. So none of this should be, a huge surprise. And I know it's disappointing, probably to fans that see these numbers getting thrown around. But, at the end of the day, none of this should be a surprise, since what happened in the 80s
I'm surprised.
Still hangs over.
I thought when they evened the playing field, we was going to even and start getting busy a little bit. So I am surprised. Let's talk about – I got to grab my charge from my computer. Let's talk about the kid that we had a kid that visited and popped as soon as he leave campus. What's the lowdown on that, Nick? Real quick, Florida State. He committed to Florida State as soon as he left campus. So
to me, if your decision is like that, then your decision was already made before you went on the OV. You were gonna commit to FSU. And listen, I think we've all said it. Like, if someone's gonna pay for you to come up to campus and wine you, dine you, treat you around campus, and tell you the best thing that's ever happened to the game of football, take that official visit. The timing of it, to me, I don't think it was a troll. I don't think anything else. I think the kid took a visit that he was offered to him, a free trip to a school, to be treated like a prince. But if you're going to commit, literally still in the car, haven't even gotten out of Greater Alachua County yet, and you're going to commit, after, then to me, your decision was already made prior to the official visit. It looks really bad.
It does.
For Florida. That the kid is probably still in. If he was flying, if he was going to the airport, he's probably firing off or crafting the tweet in a car owned by the university.
but let's be honest, right? Like, yes, it sucks. Yes, it's a really bad look for UF. It's bad for the coaching staff, whatever. But I would rather you do it sooner rather than later, right? If you're going to commit and you're going to stay locked in, and you say, hey, I'm shutting my recruitment down, shut it down and you focus your energy somewhere else, right? Like I'd rather him shut it down now than 4 months from now, and you spend that time and, the kid's mind was already made up. So, I mean, I guess that's my position on it. Like it sucks that it happened right after, but also if and the kid says, hey, this is where I'm going, cool. Like if you weren't going to come here, we don't have to spend our valuable time, money, and resources on you anymore. So,
yeah,
at least you get to save that piece of it.
Just bad on the eyes, right?
Especially with everything else.
Everything
optics
else
are off.
Optics is nasty. Nasty work on the optics, man. Nasty.
They're just
I do like the nasty move for Florida State. Shout out to Atkins, but we got to pay them back for that. We got to bring Kodak or somebody to their field. We got to do something real ignorant about that. I don't like that one bit. I ain't like that, Dan.
Not like that one.
That disturbed me. That disturbed me more than Rashad. I was like, well, we got Mike Norvell doing stuff like this, bro. What's going on?
You can't have Money Mike. You can't have Money Mike throwing you in the mud like this.
EBT Mike can't be doing stuff like this, man. But like you said, it was a setup. It is what it is, man. We got to land something though. We got some decision dates on the horizon of guys that we got to land.
Yeah, so Derek LeBlanc, top 100 defensive lineman, announced today his top 3 of Florida, Oklahoma, and Penn State. He is going to announce on July 28th. It was originally scheduled for July 23rd, then scheduled for mid-October, and now going to be July 28th, 6'4.5", 270-pound defensive lineman. Definitely a guy that Florida is trending for. If you look at the recruiting prediction machine on 3, a guy that I think Florida needs. He's a big name, big prospect. Could be one of those game changers at UF. But certainly
been on campus 1,000 times like everybody else. I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, been on campus 1,000 times. We've had a lot of people on campus, so a lot of times, and Florida's not getting those guys. So maybe they've been on too many times. Like, you know what? I've spent an entire
here's my thing. It looks like they love it. We leading for these guys. From AJ, you think about it. Even when we got Rashada, Tony Mitchell, we leading for these guys, and then decision dates get changed. Something's happening in the process, but the visits mean that there's some rapport. There's a relationship building that's actually working. There's a rapport between staff and these recruits, but something's falling apart when it's time to decide. Either dates are getting changed or we missing. So it's business that's going down. Like, it's very clear to me what's happening. These guys are doing very great when it comes to like building up, getting kids on campus, the frequency of visits, the kids being engaged on social media with whatever social media stuff they're giving them. All that stuff is smooth and better than the last staff, but we got to figure out how to close, and that's business right now in 2022. We're closing on recruits. It ain't just come play for this logo and education. It's a little different.
Yeah, Florida's still probably looking to close on their first big national recruit, I would say. And that's not diminishing anybody. Isaiah Nixon's very highly rated. Najee Harris, had a lot of offers, but Florida's probably still looking for that one big national splash, and getting a guy like Derek LeBlanc would certainly be great. Getting a guy like Cormani McLean, right? I mean, you're starting to get to a point where you have to win some of these big national battles. Florida at one point was trending heavily for Trayon Webb and for Cedric Baxter, and we're involved heavily in some big running back sweepstakes. And who knows, you might not get any of those guys right now. And, Florida is right now trending for Andy Jean, 4-star wide receiver that was committed to Miami at one point, but again, probably not a huge national battle, right? So Florida, in my opinion, is going to need to land one of these big, national battle recruits here pretty soon, because it's just not been a good, 4 or 5 months for UF recruiting in that regard.
What are we hearing on Eugene Wilson? He'll be one of them guys. There's been a lot of smoke. He's been tearing up at camps. Any smoke there, Ned? Been some smoke on the boards. Nothing there? You're muted. Nothing for me?
I mean, if you were to ask the people that might know, there was some discussion that I might be committing this week. And that was last week. Or up through today.
Got close.
I would feel confident, but like you said, you got to close.
Right.
There's been a lot of confident feelings.
Yeah, I feel confident about LeBlanc, but I'm also like now I'm just like, bro, I don't know what to expect, bro. Because as soon as I get confident, we get the rug pulled up under me, man. So just kind of vibing. We'll see what happened. But LeBlanc made his like he had just left Florida when he made that decision of I'm not going to October now. I'm going in July. But like we said, man, these kids can love us. They can love Billy. They can love the program. Visit 1,000,000 times, but if a few $100,000 is going to sway them, then we got to start playing that game. We can't sit back and keep posturing and saying we're not playing that game yet. We're going to wait and see.
Yeah. July 28th is a Thursday. He is slated right now to go to Friday Night Lights, which is on that Friday, July 29th. Let's give a quick shout out to our friends over at Alumni Hall. Visit alumnihall.com. Get your UF gear, whether it's shirts, sweaters, cups, mugs, coasters, golf head covers, whatever the case may be. We are just a few weeks away from them dropping the new Nike and Jordan apparel before the season. Before the season starts. Visit alumnihall.com or visit them in Gainesville on Archer Road. Wyatt Langford, named first team All-American by D1 Baseball. Obviously had a great season at the University of Florida, tied the school record for home runs. Congratulations, Wyatt Langford. Nick, you want to close out the baseball part of the this segment with talking about Wyatt Langford and then a couple baseball transfers?
Yeah. Wyatt Langford finally getting some first team recognition. This one from d1baseball.com. They're kind of my go-to source for baseball news. I've had a lot of people asking me, like, where do you go for baseball recruiting? And kind of like Morgan, the way she said it, it's way different than football. Guys commit at 15, 16 years old, kind of just vibe out until they get to campus. But there has been the transfer portal is not new, but new to baseball. So I think they're trying to figure out what, baseball is going to be, how the transfer portal is going to impact it. Florida's now had 7 guys enter the portal. Matt Cassetti was a catcher. He's just looking for time. I think Florida, we're going to have to watch the draft, which will come less than 3 weeks away now. Have to watch the draft. If Florida can get this kid, Luke Hyman, to campus, this is a power bat, like a stud catcher. Florida also thinks that Rene Lastres will be able to play by January. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, a catcher. So if that's the case, you've got 2 really good catchers, and BT Riopel should be coming back. You've got 3 catchers now. Matt Cassetti just looking for playing time, and he's got 2 years to play. The other ones as well, no real surprises. Nick Pogue, if you look at Florida's pitching staff, the weekend's pretty set with Jack Caglione, Pierce Capalla, and Brandon Neely. He doesn't want to be as somebody who's already graduated and will get a graduate certificate program. Is that what he said, Dan?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to go look. Nick Pogue is going to sign. And if he doesn't sign, then he'll play 1 year elsewhere. He's hoping he can pitch on the weekend. Corey Robinson was an outfielder, freshman last year. Carl Hartman was a freshman last year, and Timmy Manning. No one really big surprises there. Jorge Dagoti. The only one I was surprised at maybe a little bit was Chris Armstrong, just because the timing of it. But again, a guy who's been on campus for a long time. Didn't get a ton of playing time last year, had to split time at first base. Just looking for an opportunity to play somewhere else and get, some more innings, some more at-bats. The 2 commitments that they have picked up, Colby Thomas, who's an outfielder from Mercer, and Dale Thomas, no relation, an infielder, utility guy from Coastal Carolina. Colby will be interesting. He is a potential top 5 round pick in the draft that's coming up in a couple weeks. It could be Florida could be just being used. A commitment to Florida could just be being used right now for him as a negotiating tool. When you get drafted and you're negotiating your signing bonus, the logo of the University of Florida holds more weight than Mercer. If he's drafted in the top 3 rounds, I don't expect him to get to campus. If he goes to 5th round or something like that. Maybe it'll be interesting to see. He's a kid who has a lot of power in his bat. And then the last one, Dale Thomas, is a guy I think kind of completes your infield because you're going to lose Josh Rivera, but you get Derek Fabian back, you get Colby Halter back, and I think Colby at third, Derek at short, and then Dale Thomas can play second. He's played second, third, and short, but I think he'd fit in there at second base, and you've got your outfield set.
I appreciate that news, Nick.
Yeah, you look like
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna have to re-listen to that one again. Names coming and going. Nick, Silk, you guys see Anthony Richardson showing off his arm at the Manning Passing Academy?
Bro, guy's got a cannon.
He's got a cannon. Just slinging it.
You're on
mute.
It killed my effect a little bit. It's going up this fall, man.
Yeah.
It's going up this fall. I'm excited about the football season, bro. We got to see him jump over people. If he healthy, man, college football, look out, dog. I think he can elevate the play around him. But it was good to see like him being that leader out there pitching around, and the scouts and the coaches around him, their faces, watch him just fling that thing down the field, man. They are special. He's got to put it all together this fall, dog.
At the risk of ruining my brand, which Dan has given me as Negative Nick, I was doing some answers for our Georgia site, and as I'm like writing them, I think I even put like Anthony Richardson has Heisman dark horse potential. Like that's like the ceiling I can see for him. Like that's the kind of player he is. And the guy hits me back and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Listen, dude, like I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, but I'm saying like if he realizes his full potential, that's the kind of player he is. He has the potential to drag a mediocre Florida team to like 10 wins. I mean, like that's how good he is."
Yeah.
I mean, the sports betting books, let me just look it up. I mean, the sports betting books have him in the top, I think 15. Let me just pull it up here real quick.
Which, I mean, doesn't sound, while you look it up, I mean, that doesn't sound great, but there's 200-something teams,
there's 130 teams with 85 people on them, right?
Yeah, I'm still in baseball mode where there's 300 teams. Yeah. Gotta get back.
Yeah, right. I mean, if I remember correctly, he's somewhere in the top 15. He might be in the top 12. I mean, that's certainly very high. For a guy that didn't, play a ton last year, certainly had, some big games against USF and some other, certainly highlight reel type stuff, but didn't play a ton. But obviously, a guy that's being talked about a lot. And is a guy that's being talked about if he has a good year. Could be a one and done. To the NFL next season. So. A guy that we know has all the physical tools, but it was great to see him not only sling the ball downfield, but be accurate downfield too, right? Obviously, it's not the same as game time, but very impressive video. I read an article yesterday that mentioned him and Will Levis from Kentucky as being really the two standout quarterbacks at the event. So you're certainly looking forward to seeing some balls in the air.
Pause,
man. Pause,
or
man.
Was that pause, or was that a great segue?
It is a great segue to our Manscaped ad read. Yeah. Guys, this will be a 2-hour and 40-minute show today.
It's all food. It's not fast food, man. Real good, wholesome food for the people. Shout out to the great folks at manscaped.com. It's hot ball season. It ain't just ball season. It's also hot ball season. Be sure to get that ball deodorant. Keep them things cool. Keep them shaved as well, man. Don't be hairy Larry. You got to groom yourself, fellas. It's 2022. Also, we have the Weed Whacker. Keep the nostrils, man, flowing straight. Breathing all good. No ear hair, any of that stuff, man. Groom it up. They have shower products. The Lawnmower 4.0 is a razor you can use in the shower, man. Don't worry about getting electrocuted or anything crazy. Also has a light if you like to take showers in the dark. You never know, man. People be setting the vibe when they take a shower. Me, I bring the sound bar in there. I like a little candle, but if the candle don't work, I have a light on the Lawnmower 4.0, man. Be sure to use coupon code SG20 at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com, the best of man grooming. Groom yourself, man. Take care of them family jewels.
Nick, Silk, you had the song of the week last week, right?
All freestyle there. Yeah, I had the song.
Nick, which song of the week, my friend? Was it the last show that you had your pirate dance jingle, or was that the show before?
Pirate dance jingle. Pirate dance jingle. Which is also a bag.
Nick is still.
Nick got the bags, man. You were still muted, bro. That's how terrible that song was.
It's my song of the week. The sea shanty is a banger and slaps. No debate.
Yeah.
A lot of debates.
Switching. We're gonna switch
all
up.
We're still debating, actually.
Yeah.
There's the debates are done, and we came out victorious. Stop the count. We're good.
Nick's like one of the refs from the game last night.
I'm switching up genres. Switching up genres. We're gonna go with a little country this week. Great artist, Dan will know him, Randy Travis. And the song is called "I Told You So."
How you stereotyping me, man? How you know I don't know him?
You know Randy Travis?
You know Randy Travis.
I do. I know Randy Travis. What he got? I don't know if I know.
He's got 3 wooden crosses. That's probably the one
Sing
that
it.
most
Sing it.
people.
Sing it for me.
He's got 3 wooden crosses.
I ain't got that one on the playlist at all.
It's about Jesus. You know, forever and ever, amen. Forever and ever, amen.
I went to a black church, bro.
Yeah. He's got.
I don't know none of that, man.
He's got. My love is deeper than the holler.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah,
I know that one.
What else does he have?
That used to come on in inspirational.
Digging up bones. He's got a lot. Randy Travis has been around. Unfortunately, suffered a stroke a few years ago. But one of country music's elite singers.
Is it country gospel? Like, what's his lane? What is actually?
Yeah, I think it was mainstream, but probably more gospel. Definitely more faith related type stuff. Yep.
Right. Okay.
That's a good song though, Nick. And now the internet has me singing all sorts of Randy Travis.
I like it.
I got you singing a lot of Randy songs. So
I can tell you go stupid. You go real crazy at the karaoke nights. I can tell, Dan.
Yeah.
I like it.
And, Carrie Underwood redid the song too, but we're gonna go with Randy's.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to friend of the show, personal friend, Paul Salmon's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Paul. Oh, and I forgot. I had to give a shout out to my baseball community over on Gators Online. I told them like 3 weeks ago I was gonna give them a shout out on the podcast. Almost forgot again. So shout out to those guys in the DMs on 3.
It goes down in the DM. Shout out to my roll up varsity dudes, man. Connor, my man
Sticks.
Shout out to my man Sticks and Connor holding it down with roll up varsity. If you guys haven't checked them out, they holding it down on the recruiting on the roll up network, man. Get them guys to subscribe or follow on Twitter, Instagram, all of that, man. We got some stuff cooking, and you guys gonna do some great things in that market. So shout out to them.
And I know that you have something else that's cooking, Silk with Bubba Caldwell and D-Web.
Yeah, I got something cooking, man. Some visual content with him. With both of those guys. Caldwell already has a production team and crew. He shoot a lot of like professional stuff already with BT Soul, and he's up in Atlanta doing this thing. But they reached out and we got something cooking. Also, Adrian McPherson from Florida State, man. I got a few things cooking with the network.
I love it, man. Well, boys, hell of a show. See you at the same corner, same time. Next week's 4th of July, so we got to figure out our schedule for recording then, because I assure you, I will be getting lit.
Yeah, big Bender vibes.
With the fireworks.
Big Bender vibes.
Are you bringing that little ass cannon back out?
I should. Yeah. Oh man, got to celebrate the 4th with a bang.
All right, let's get out of here.
We'll see you at the same corner, same time next week.